Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to the Perfectly Imperfect Spiritual Podcast. I'm Marta, your host, a psychic medium, spiritual teacher, a guide for those of you walking the path of intuition, embodiment, and soul led living. And today we are meeting on such a magical day. Well, we're recording this episode on the 11th of November, so 1111 portal, a moment that carries the energy of alignment, awakening, and new beginnings. And I couldn't imagine a more aligned guest to share this space with. And I'm joined once again by Christel Rosenkilde Christensen, also known as the New World Oracle. And if you've listened to our previous conversation, you'll remember the depth and frequency of that exchange. We spoke about conscious leadership, energy mastery, and bridging the worlds of high performance and deep spirit. And if you haven't yet heard that episode, I truly recommend going back to it. It's a beautiful foundation for everything that unfolds when consciousness meets creation. And today feels like the perfect time to reconnect. As I've mentioned, we are recording it on the 11th, and I don't know exactly where this conversation will take us yet, but I have a feeling it will be special. So let's open our hearts, ground into this moment, and see what wants to come through together. I'm going to introduce my guest formally in a second, but first I just wanted to say hello, Christel. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Marta. I've been looking forward to converse with you again.
Thank you. I'm so excited. But for those who are new to Christel's work, Christel Rosenkilde Christensen is the New World Oracle and a global expert in conscious leadership and energy mastery. She bridges the worlds of high performance, deep spirit, and visionary transformation. A trained medium featured in Demystifying Mediumship by Carrie Alderuccio, Christel has spent the past 18 years guiding elite leaders, creatives, and changemakers across more than 30 countries. Her background combines international business, elite sports psychology, and spiritual science, including an academic foundation in global strategy and high performance leadership. She's the author of The Treasure: How to Change the World on Energetic Leadership as an Agent for Visionary Change, creator of The Treasure Change the World Tour and host of the New World Oracle show, The Magic of Elite Consciousness on the New Reality TV. Christel helps visionaries lead what's next through energetic precision, a soul alignment, and deep transformation of individuals, their teams, and their companies. Well, Christel, again, welcome back. It's such a joy to have you here again.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
The energy feels full of potential today. Like we're being invited into both grounding and expansion all at once. I'm just curious what 1111 means for you and what are you sensing in the collective energy right now?
Well, during my spiritual journey over the last 30 years, for me, the 1111 has always been the number for new beginnings, to a number that has drawn my attention every time a new era has come up for me or the world. And this day, today is very special for me because, as you ask, what do I sense for the world? What is the energy for today? The fact that it is 11:11 today that we're recording this show, but also the fact that over the last almost 14 days, I've had waves of energy pushing forward, calling visionary leaders in all fields across the world to truly step up in their conscious leadership, their authenticity in their purposeful path. And it's a big ask. And when I say leaders, I mean leaders across the board, leaders of businesses, leaders of countries, leaders of a team, leaders of a family, and self-leadership. So any conscious person on this earth is truly needing to look into their personal leadership or the leadership of others. We're None of us are exempt. So this is so
Mm-hmm.
exciting that it's not calling a certain group, it is calling a certain, may I say, species on the planet, the
Mm-hmm.
conscious collective within us all who are truly wanting not only to thrive, but to make others thrive, not only for us to succeed, but collectively want to see the everybody succeeding, and not only make a personal legacy behind, but to truly create collectively a legacy of having created a positive turn in evolution, because that is what I believe we're not only here for, but this is the era that we're in. And now we are talking on this specific date, so even the number is assisting
Mm-hmm.
synchronistically to push forward this new beginning that we are also privileged to not only live, but also have a responsibility to step up and step into our leadership that we were meant to bring into this world, living in this specific time in history. I know it's a long answer, but that is what I'm feeling and sensing for today and the weeks around us. This is the revolutionary moment that we may not have known was coming, but it's here now and we're part of it. And we're co-creators of this new world that we're entering.
Mm-hmm. I love it. And I kept hearing as you were talking responsibility, responsibility. It is such a huge responsibility to be a conscious leader, to make a positive change, to allow other people to step into their power, and to not use their power
Yeah.
for other uses. So, would you be able to talk about, well, the 11th energy? Are we being called to act or reflect more now, or both?
Absolutely both, but it's almost a time of internal decision making, of never again put the responsibility of change into other people's hands.
Mm,
When we talk about politics, yes, we can vote. When we talk about at work, yes, we can lead, or we can influence leaders in our families. It's everywhere. We have lived in a time, age of Pisces, that we just left 2000 years of our age of Pisces behind, was the patriarchy, where we
mhm.
were all meant to be led under institutions, in hierarchical structures. We were taught that there were leaders that was guiding us into a certain direction. And now
Okay, and we are back. I was just mentioning to Crystal we have Mercury retrograde as well, so internet stopped working, but we're continuing with this beautiful interview. So you've been mentioning something about the age of Pisces and what we've left and what we are now stepping into. So I'm curious whether you can share a little bit more about that.
yes. Let me tune into where I was,
Mm-hmm.
because I have been speaking quite a lot since the connection broke off.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what it is that we are leaving the old structure behind. And we have such a great responsibility for all of us now to step into our personal power, into our conscious power. And stepping into that conscious power, now moving into Age of Aquarius, we are uniting forces, but not with one leader. We're united forces where we're all asked to step into our personal leadership and leadership for the world. And I think what is most important for all of us right now is that we don't give the power away for change to anyone else. We cannot look up to our global, national leaders, corporate leaders, institutional leaders, even the people who would normally be the leaders in our family. We need to assume responsibility as individuals, nurture our consciousness. The more we nurture that consciousness, the more we naturally step into our destined power, destined capacity, and destined path. And that is the decision we need to take now, to step up in that very capacity. And the beauty, what you started by saying, is we also need to ground. And when we are nurturing our consciousness, it doesn't become scary or a big demand or a burden to step into our leadership. When we nurture our consciousness, what happens is we become more alive. Joy is awakened. We get more energy. We get inspiration. We get guided. We suddenly become the vessels that we were meant to be, stepping into this era in history. So then we are almost called, we are being guided, we're being inspired. If we're allowing ourselves to nurture consciousness, we need to allow time for that. We need to be disciplined in nurturing our consciousness, because then life itself, the joy, the unconditional love, the inspiration will go hand in hand with taking responsibility, taking our positive power, guiding change, and become co-creators of not only better lives, but a better world for all of us.
I love it. And could you explain to anyone who's watching, listening, and who's just new to the concept of leadership, and who might get overwhelmed by it, what does it mean to step into your conscious leadership as an individual? What does it mean?
As individuals, and that could be in all walks of life, even in our
Yes.
own families and in our lives, to me, that's stopping allowing others to guide the way and tell us what is right and what is not right. Because we essentially all have an inner knowing, and everybody who's tuned in to your channel are more conscious beings who do have a voice. They have listened to that voice, because they're intuitive, they're guided towards your channel and being open to your beautiful and important messages. So everybody who will listen onto this show, you're already very well aware of your inner voice. And so for individuals, what we need to, when we talk about leadership and conscious leadership, it is being disciplined about nurturing that consciousness, taking time to listen to that inner voice and connect to that which is greater than ourselves. And as I work with people from all over the world, for me, it's important to say that I don't define one religion as truth to source. I believe that the different religions hold each their pathway to source, to the divine, so that we can use our faith. And if certain people are non-believers, tap into the divine, to the universal power. So the important thing is to tap into that which is greater than ourselves. For each individual, what do they define as the highest source of the universe, for the most loving and the most positive force in the universe. That is how I would define what to search for, what to ask for, what to pray for, depending on how each person in silence connect to that greatness in our universe that we're all capable of tuning into. And if when we tap into that which is greater than ourselves, connecting that to our personal power, our inner voice, our intuition, our inner compass, when those two are combined, when we nurture our consciousness, take time off turn off all phones, and truly tune in to our purposeful path, the path that was given to us before birth, then we are literally being guided. We will receive inspiration. We will feel what is right. And taking leadership, conscious leadership, means that we will now voice our truth. We will now act on our truth. And we will now not hesitate to guide others with what we feel is the truth. When we're connected to that which is higher than ourselves, connecting that to our inner voice, asking, what I know, how am I meant to communicate that? And it will come to us. That's how I always walked. That's how I live my life. And it's also where I become extremely compassionate with myself when I have human reactions to something. Because we are not meant, that consciousness is not soft. Consciousness is not all love and light. Consciousness knows when to put boundaries. Consciousness also holds anger. Consciousness also holds boundaries. Consciousness also holds unconditional love. But when we're in unconditional love, we will put boundaries to what's not right. We will put boundaries to what is destroying either our planet or other people or ourselves. So we need to open up to the fact that we are human, and we are human for a reason. I become angry for a reason. I become sad for a reason. I become joyful for a reason. I get inspired for a reason, and not hold back. Because when we nurtured our consciousness, we will also become more self-aware. So we will start seeing what we were responsible for ourselves in certain situations. So our anger becomes more fair. Our boundaries become more just. And the way we interact with the world will become true to who we are, true to something that's greater than ourselves. And every single interaction that we are being called to have as human beings, we will then understand that they were meant to happen, no matter whether it is in love or joy or anger or disappointment. All of it is just there to trigger the truth inside of us, so that we will make an impact, so we will make that difference in our own lives and in other people's lives. If we are not true to who we are, if we are not true to our values, if we are not true to how we see the world, then we are missing out. The world is missing out of our destined greatness, whatever it is. Whether our greatness is to smile in line in the supermarket, or whether our greatness is to put strong boundaries to somebody treating somebody else unfair. That is the beauty of it. Once we step into our true power and lead with consciousness, then we feel why we're here, and we feel the destined call in everything that we do, from what we eat to how we speak to how we show up in the world.
I love it. And I love observing so many more people being awakened, being tapped into their truth, and tapped into the source of unconditional love. What hurts me still a lot, because I get many clients and students who come after they got hurt by various supervisors, mentors who were not tapped completely into that source of light. And then it takes immense, I guess, courage for those individuals that initially need or they're being, for instance, guided to me so they can believe and trust themselves that actually they're of light and that they haven't done anything wrong, and then they start really believing themselves. But if you could talk a little bit about the importance of setting boundaries and being okay with people talking about you whatever they want to, and concentrating on being of service and concentrating on becoming the best version of ourselves. And by it, I mean becoming the pure channel and really living in purpose.
That it's such an important question. It is such an important thing for all of us to constantly remind ourselves. So my answer is something that I am also reminding myself of. So this is, of course, it's never easy. As a human being, we'd like to be loved. And we would like the world to support us, and we would like people to be honest. We would like people to be with us in the same capacity that we are capable to be in our truth, even when we are with friends or family or with the world. And I regret that I don't remember who said this, but it was a very famous person who said that they thought that once they would be world renowned, well, once they would be known around the world for who they were, then they would be loved by so many more people. And they said, in fact, that happened, that they were loved by so many, their concerts, there are more than 60,000 a time. But what happened was also that there was just as many people who disliked them and started to write on truths about them in all sorts of media, and trolls that were targeted, millions of troll attacks on their social media, and they had to suffer that they felt attacked and unloved by many more people than before being known. And they said the biggest work that they had to do with themselves was to acknowledge that there was nothing in this world that would make us be loved by more people, unless we should also be willing to be disliked by so many more people. And I think that, that I've sensed that myself in my work, that it was so hard to step out of my comfort zone, because when I started my business 19 years ago, what I do now in the scene of business and high performance, elite performance, was not known. When I talked about energy, I was frowned upon by certain people, and I was looked upon as asked, how can you as a medium and energy master, how can you work with the elite in business and performance and politics and so forth? How do you do it? And I said to them at that time, I have to accept that only 20% of who I talk to are open to what I do, and only 3% might be willing to work with me. And only a fraction of that 3% will ever acknowledge to anybody else that they use somebody like me. But because I've meditated since I was 11, which is more than 30 years now, and I have always listened to my guidance, and I've acted inspired. So it has been impossible for me to do anything but what my guidance told me to do. So at work, it was very easy for me, not my ego, because the voice in the back of my mind kept saying, people are going to talk behind your back that you're crazy. They're going to talk, so much, be so critical behind your back, Christel. But because I was so guided and I only acted on my inspiration, I couldn't do anything else. So I was very conflicted 18 years ago. But then I thought I got it. And I thought to myself, now now I'm in my own. So about 8 years ago, I thought, I got it. I have clients in 30 countries around the world. I've traveled the world many times. I've published my book. I did that, I had this success story around what I did. So I felt certain that now I had accepted myself for who I was. And then spirit threw in another card, because suddenly I was in a relationship. I got pregnant and we had so different values, and my biology took me on a spin, because I thought I needed to keep my family. I needed to be with the father of my child. Nothing in this world could at that time make me think that I shouldn't compromise with everything that I was to make this relationship last, because my biology wanted my daughter to have a father close by. So I compromised to such an extent that I almost lost myself in the very different cultural way of handling conflict, of walking in life, how to speak to each other. There was such a different culture and value set that I faced. And it took me 7 years to get back into my own space, where I also, in my private life, dare to set enough boundaries so that I acknowledge the importance of myself, my values, who I am, what I believe in, to truly be able to protect myself and raise my daughter in a safe and calm environment. So when you ask me that question, how can we live in this conscious way, and how can we not mind what other people say and talk behind our backs? I'm not saying it's easy. So you heard my private story and a more corporate way of presenting myself. But sometimes we just have to let life teach us. And sometimes there are different chapters in our life where it would be friends that suddenly betray us, or it would be in a relationship, or it will be in business. We have to allow life to be our teacher to such an extent that no matter what happens, no matter what people say, no matter how people treat us, we also have to trust the process. Because before the last 7 years, I was never presented with friends or relations where I had to put boundaries. And the clients that I attracted all over the world respected my boundaries. And I had the ways that I worked with executives, performers, and all fields were very, they held an interest in making a positive impact. And at that time, there was not the same bias in communication as we see today. We see world leaders who are evidently lying to our faces. We see fake news. We see a leadership that is so different, so that most leaders that were attracted to me was not exposed to what we're exposed to today. So I needed to go through this period of time where my values and everything that I was so compromised that I needed to get to a point where I could no longer live and be healthy and have a mental health unless I broke free of thinking that I had to compromise. Because we're entering a new chapter in world history, the evolutionary change is showing us so vividly in our faces that now we can no longer compromise our values, our ethics. We can no longer please the world around us and show up in a certain way to be liked, because then the world will destroy itself, or we will destroy our own lives. Oh my goodness. I was a shadow of myself at a certain point, because I did not acknowledge the fact that hard boundaries were needed for me to be able to be the leader that I always was and always will be. But I learned it, and I learned it the hard way. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we need to be disappointed. Sometimes we need to deal with extreme pressure to
Mm-hmm.
get out on the other end of it, to the other side of it, and value ourselves even more, because we saw what happened when we didn't. And
Mm-hmm.
so we're entering a phase in not only world history, but in personal history, where we will have to lose some to gain something amazing. And we will have to lose something to regain, but not only regain, but to unlock a new version of greatness that the world is waiting for us to unlock.
Mm-hmm.
And so if every person who is listening can look at themselves with love, if they have experienced certain situation where they felt compromised and hurt, and where it almost felt like an attack, whether it was personal or business wise or everything at the same time, please bear in mind that there's a reason for everything. The reason is for us to step up in conscious leadership and not compromise anymore. It is never to please more. It is never to compromise more. It is never to destroy yourself with either too much thought process to see how you can gain back those friends or business people, or try to explain yourself to them or to others. You cannot. Those who want
Mm-hmm.
to believe the opposite will believe the opposite. Those who want to go with fake news, those who want to believe that a lie or that other side of things without wanting to hear your side, it is we're moving into that specific time in history right now where we will see the tides separate, and we will just need to make a choice. Which side of the tide do I want to stand on? And that is what we can all do. Who am I? What are my values? How do I wish to be met by my people, my tribe, my group of people, whether it is personal or whether it is in our world leadership, where we are voicing our message? Because no matter who we are, I think it was Coldplay, by the way. I think it was Coldplay. They were saying this thing about being loved more, being liked
Mm-hmm.
more. Um, Chris Martin. So never, ever, ever think that when you become more truthful to yourself and to that of which is greater than ourselves, that we'll be loved by everyone. On the contrary, because then
Mm-hmm.
we're shining more, and that will trigger something in those who does not like to see our light shine that powerful. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a long answer, and I brought in some personal stories, but I just hope that everybody listen here will value themselves more and value the process and trust the process. But I hope they don't have to go through 7 years like I did. I hope by listening to our our conversation
Mm-hmm.
that something will click, and they'll rise and not question themselves. And even they have a biology hack if their biology is leading them to believe that they have to compromise. I hope that listening to this, something will click inside of themselves, and they will trust what they tune into from that of which is greater than ourselves more.
Mm-hmm.
The world subject onto them, and knowing that whatever comes is for me to learn to put boundaries and not, I can't say that, not care about what other people
Mm-hmm.
say behind our backs, because they will. The more we step into a truth, the more we shine, the more we speak up, the more people will talk about us.
Thank you. That's been so powerful, and thank you for sharing your reflections based on your personal experiences and then your work experience. And I hope, again, I wish for anyone who's watching or listening, I just hope that you are going to treat any adversities, anything that is challenging, as an opportunity to grow, as an opportunity to be so much more rooted in your truth and authenticity, because I truly believe the world needs people who operate with their heart spaces. Uh, and I feel like various people who come, various triggers that do come to our lives are those opportunities to level up a little bit more, become, because we're living this human experience here, having a thicker skin, and to carry on being of service to others, inspiring, but never doubting ourselves when listening to our intuition and when listening to the sources downloads. So thank you. That's been so beautiful. How about grounding? How does grounding, because I know you've talked a little bit today and during our previous episode about grounding, how does grounding can help integrate expansion? How can we support ourselves with grounding?
Well, I think even the situations that we just spoke about, we may feel scattered in our energies or in our mind or in our feelings when we are experiencing attacks from other people or bad mouthing or betrayal, whatever happens. I think even that is a grounding thing. We may feel scattered, so it may not feel so grounding, but if we allow ourselves to feel the feelings around it, not go up in our head and think too much, how can I solve this? How could they? Why are they doing this? But more be, it makes me sad when they say this, because if we go down into our feeling, into our heart, we are suddenly allowing ourselves to be who we are. Oh, I went up in my mind. How can I solve this? How can I explain myself? How can I write things so they'll understand that I only want good? How can I make them behave in a certain way? How can I make them understand that all I want for us is to find a positive path? I was trying so hard instead of just being, what does this make me feel? And I think allowing ourselves to feel, because we are, anybody who nurture their consciousness, and even people who have not yet nurtured consciousness but have a more conscious being from birth, we are sensitive. And I most certainly would like to stay that way. I don't know if any of you know the song from Jewel, I'm sensitive and I would like to stay that way. I love that song because I am sensitive. And I'll never want to see the day where I become cynical or where I have to close my heart to be on this very planet. So I think the grounding also comes when we face adversity, when we face pressure, but if we feel what it means to us, because then it not only humbles us, but it really grounds us to an extent where if we're allowing ourselves to be sensitive, then we also choose more wisely of who we interact with, who we let into our life, and what kind of message we let flow through us. So I don't want to harden my message so that I get accepted by certain people, so that a certain kind of people won't badmouth me. No, because then I'm just going to be in such a very tough environment. I want to stay true to who I am. And that also means that I'm a sensing being. And I think listening to our senses, listening to what we feel is a grounding exercise. But it's tough because we would like to be angry at the other person, or we would like to be disappointed about the other person, or we would like to be hopeful that that other person will change or will change their way they look at us. But that is an illusion. That can be spiritual bypassing. That can make us be fluffy and be too people pleasing, or listening to certain thing that will only please our illusion, because not all people have good intentions. Not all people can see our good intentions. Not all people like our good intentions. And not all people are comfortable around our sensitivity. And by far, well, not many people will create, by now, I'm not saying in the future, but they're not willing to create a world where our senses are being nurtured and respected. We're living in a
Mm.
world now that was created to harness as much energy from energy and resources from people, from the planet, literally just sucking life out of us to create institutions and create wealth in a way that has exhausted our planetary resources. And we as individuals, we're almost exhausted just by living.
Mm-hmm.
So we're moving into a phase in history, and we see it. Luckily, there are more and more leaders too. We're not only to talk about the leaders that goes in a different direction than what we are hoping for in conscious leadership. We are seeing conscious leadership rising. We
Mm.
are seeing leaders who express they only want their workers to work 4 days a week. We are seeing women bringing their babies into government. They're, breastfeeding their babies, but they're still standing and speaking in parliament. We are seeing in Mexico, there's a female president. We're seeing in Japan, we have female president. Those are patriarch countries. We are really seeing a more conscious rise in leadership. And COVID, the pandemic, gave us a moment in time to breathe, a moment in time to see what happened if we spent more time being, more than being out in the world, interacting with everybody without feeling our senses, but being, our energies was exploited by society. Now we have overcome the challenges that COVID gave us, what the pandemic brought on us. And we have almost all healed up from the challenges that it brought on us. So now it's time to go back into the world and say what we saw worked and what we see does not work. And that is the next chapter. And that is,
Mm.
consciousness is on a rise, but we need to accept the fact that it is on a rise because we need it, because our sensitivity needs it, and because the planet needs it. The sensitivity of our planet. We've exhausted resources on our planet to the extent that our ozone layer has a big hole in it, and that we see climate change like no other. And so it's a time where we need to stand up and honor our sensitivity and not hide it away. But we can do
Mm.
that in a tactful way. We can do that in an extremely professional way. We can do that by sharing without talking too much about only our feelings, but we can talk about what we know.
Mm-hmm.
To people that are not within our world, instead of saying, oh, I feel that, we can say,
Mm-hmm.
I know that, I have experienced this, I experienced it in my body, I experienced it the last place I worked, I experienced it with my last leadership role, we experienced it this last time we had an argument, now we want something different. So we can talk about what we experience and what we know.
Mm-hmm.
Use a different vocabulary to people from the outside that are not yet there where we might be, and then slowly build a bridge, but not slowly rise. That is now. We need to rise to our capacity and our responsibility.
I love it. And I love the fact that we are rewriting the narrative of what strength means, what leadership means, and that there is space for softness, that there is space for feelings, and that the fact that we are well, sensing beings is not a weakness, and that you can inspire others, you can be in positions of power while having your heart opened. It just somehow it reminds me of the feminine frequency of creation, divine feminine, divine masculine, and those energies blending. Could you talk a little bit more about how is the rise of the divine feminine transforming how we lead, and how do you observe women, but men as well, lead so much more from the feminine without losing, as you've been talking, like clarity and structure? I'm curious to find out more.
Well, in the Western world, our nervous system is reacting to what no longer holds. So in the Western world, we have never seen as many people becoming sick from stress and other illnesses that comes from how we live, that stresses our mental health as much as our physical health. And that is our nervous system responding to what no longer works, what no longer holds. So we see not only women, but we see men facing the fact that their mental resources and physical resources does no longer last when they live and lead from where they did and were needed to lead.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we are seeing that both women and men are responding to the fact that things does not work. And then when people physically or mentally need to regroup to be able to function again, they understand that it's not weakness to tap into the essence of who they are. It is necessary for what is to come. And when they know, when they accept this and they go back into work or back into life itself, we see them reacting differently. There's also the Me Too campaigning that has been there for a decade now. And that has made men feel extremely vulnerable because the tactics that they used before did not work. But there's also a lot of women that feel powerless because they can't use certain aspects of themselves that they were before, because suddenly the men are putting boundaries because they're afraid of what will happen if they relent in old ways. There are many, many things that is showing the way towards a new way of being balanced. Because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Marta, I don't want to put word into your mouth, but as I remember, we are agreeing on the fact that it's not the rise of divine feminine, so it's the feminine that has to lead now, but it is the beautiful blend of the divine masculine and the divine feminine now.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
it's, in my belief, and I don't know if everybody is aware of these expressions, but the wounded masculine is what has ruled the world the past 2,000 years. And it is the wounded masculine. It's not the divine masculine that we see when we see leadership with fake news and suppressing women and suppressing equality. That is the wounded masculine that is afraid of not being able to be in their divine masculine or in the balance. So actually, in my opinion and in my experience, what I see when I work with leaders in all fields, and it has been mainly men, but probably 70% of my clients worldwide has been men. But when we work on their personal power and their personal leadership, combining that with their vision and strategy, the only way that they can feel good, the only way they can truly thrive and create more success and make a positive impact, those three together, is by creating a balance between the divine feminine and the divine masculine. Whether it is within themselves or whether it's with their surroundings, how they even express visions. Is it with a balance of the two, or is it with a wounded masculinity? I believe that moving forward, that the perfect balance, and there's no perfectness in anything, but balance between the feminine and the masculine aspects within ourselves, when they get balanced and we are allowing to rise with balance, then we will see an entirely new way of showing up in the world, because then it's with truly respecting our own life energy and the life energy of others. I have never, in my almost 20 years now with clients around the world, seen any executive athlete, politician, anyone who has tapped into their elite conscious leadership. I have not seen anyone, once they have aligned, make any decision that destroy life or that destroy our planet or in any way respond with wounded masculinity. Never. So when we are tuned in, and when I call it elite consciousness, it is the discipline we put in to the conscious way of leading. This is not an elite of a few people. I believe that all of us can live an elite conscious leadership, because it's referring to an elite way of committing to our divine purpose, committing to consciousness, committing to walking our path with little or no compromise. It does not mean that we should not be human. We should be feeling all of our feelings, and we will make mistakes, but the mistakes would be meant to happen so that other people can have a reaction or be triggered by us. When we are truly committed to an elite conscious way or elite conscious leadership practice, then our lives changes radically. We thrive more, we succeed more, we make a positive legacy. But it's a ripple effect that has such a unique and powerful, almost like a nuclear power, because we're not only changing ourselves, then we are creating a ripple effect and changing the world around us. And energy doesn't know distance. So what we determine and how we live our lives here today changes something around the globe. And then we're becoming a part of this beautiful revolution of changing the world for the better with conscious leadership.
Beautiful. Thank you. Are there any new insights or lessons from Spirit that have surprised you recently?
Oh my goodness. I have had so many surprises. One thing is the fact that I have been shown to share. This has been a lot of in negotiations, because in leadership, there's always been this thought about not compromising and not giving in to terrorists or not giving in to people that are blackmailing us. And I've heard so much the past 2 weeks, and especially when assisting in negotiations, but also in things that are happening to individuals in their own lives, is that we have to understand that we have let it slide. We as a world and us as individuals, we have let ourselves corrupt by energetic terrorists, if I may say so. We have allowed for too long people with extremely destructive leadership to show the way. And we can no longer allow that. And earlier days, I would say that always just send positive energy, like just, send positive energies with everyone and everything. And whatever happens in their world happens in their world. The difference in this new frequency, in the new collective energy that we're seeing shifting into Age of Aquarius, is that there's no longer separation between us and them. So we cannot support anything that's destructive to life. We cannot allow national leaders or corporate leaders or people within our family to mentally bully us, or to physically bully us, or to paradigm-wise bully us into thinking that best practice can be anything with bullying and destroying our planet or us as individuals.
I'm just curious, Christel, as we're getting towards the end of our conversation, if you could channel one message from spirit, from your intuition, from yourself for everyone listening right now, what would it be?
First of all, when anything I do, I'm tuning in and I am applying my oracular voice. So everything that has been said through me in this conversation is from spirit and is for everybody listening. But when you ask that specific way, I will take my treasure visionary guidance cards that I made.
Thank you.
And I'll pull a card. And I pull card number 13. And it says, choices count. Choose to do something that changes your life and that of others for the better. Ensure that you strive to make positive difference to all who are affected by your thoughts, choices, and actions. I love that for everything that we heard. And when I am asked to tune in to a specific message for everybody, this is it. All of us can choose to do one thing that changes our lives for the better and that of others. It can be little things. It can be, I know that my neighbor has been struggling for a while. I'm going to ask her over for coffee. I'm going to do some groceries and just put in front of her door. Or at work, I need to go in, breathe in, and tell my boss what I don't like about that new strategy, what that does to our team or to our clients. Or tonight I can give my child a massage before they fall asleep. I haven't done that for a while. I haven't had the energy. So tonight I know what happens in my children's nervous system when I offer a massage before bedtime. I'll make sure that I will just take 2 minutes to myself and breathe and energize myself, connect to that which is greater than myself, so that I have energy to offer that massage or offer that advice to my boss, or change the menu slightly, because when we are tired and when we are drained, our body will try and build a layer of protection to the world, and it will crave things that are not healthy for us. But if we, before we go out to shop, we'll sit just for 2 minutes, connect to that which is greater than ourselves, meditation or prayer, whatever it is you use to nurture your conscious being, then you'll make wiser choices when you go and shop. The fact to just take a minute or two to connect to that which is greater than ourselves with our breath and with time out, whether it's 30 seconds, 2 minutes, and kept breathing with the intention to be rejuvenated and to get the energy to say or do something that you know changes something for the better for yourself or others, then you're making a positive difference in the world and you're changing your life for the better. So whether it's a small thing or it's a big thing, connect to that which is greater than yourself first by breathing with that intention, allowing yourself to be replenished, whether it's 30 seconds, which will make a difference. It's 5 deep breaths, or whether it's 2 minutes, doesn't matter. As long as the intention is right, then you'll have the energy to make that shift and do what not only you know is right, but what you will love to do to make something better for yourself and for those around you that you love or care for, or for what you care for in the world. So start by one simple thing, and maybe for some of you, get the energy to do one thing a day. And then for those of you more advanced, make like a vision for how you want to change your life. Breathe, connect to that which is greater than yourself, and make it a strategy. So what is my vision? How do I want to choose to do something that changes your life and that of others for the better? So then it becomes a life strategy. Maybe you in your business will look at it the way that I work with my clients. We look at their vision, look at their strategy, we look at their leadership. We see what can we change. And I might have an oracular vision, since from before I was born, and it's what I use and apply in my mentorship or my advice. But you can all tap into an inner knowing when you're connecting to that which is greater than yourself, to choose to do something, to listen to what today can I choose to do to make my own life better and that of others. And then see what comes to you. Nothing is too small, nothing is too big, but never, ever expect more than what is given, because sometimes it's in the little things that changes everything, like a miracle. So follow your guidance, do what you are inspired to do, no matter what it is. Allow yourself just for a week or two and just play with it and go with it, because you're magical. You hold the power to change your life. You hold the power to change the world. Everything is waiting for you to make that one decision. And remember that every decision counts. You matter more than you know.
Thank you so much. And finally, how can people work with you? What are any new projects, anything that you would love to share with the viewers and listeners?
Well, in 2nd of February, I'm starting the next year network, where conscious visionaries come together online, and we have 2 yearly meetings as a retreat. So that's one way. You can go to my website. I'll send that to you afterwards. I haven't posted it yet, so in December, 14th of December, it will be on the website. But I also have my mentorships, where people can connect with me also on my website to book individual sessions, whether it's for them individually, or I do workshops with companies and elite performers. Yeah, I think that's it. I do speeches online and in real life, so I can do my keynotes globally, either from on camera, or I can travel to see you no matter where you are in the world, for your networks or your businesses or other institutions.
Thank you. And I'm going to add all of your links to the description of this podcast. Well, Christel, thank you so much for joining us today. Every time we connect, the energy feels expansive, illuminating. I can feel your heart. And I'm feeling like so grounded and so hopeful for the world around me, and then for myself as well. You're very inspiring, and thank you for shining your light. I really appreciate you. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing me to be a co-creator together with you in your beautiful light and leadership. The world is very lucky to have you.
Thank you. And to everyone listening or watching, I hope this conversation reminded you that you are powerful. You have everything within yourself, and you are, as Christel's been mentioning, that one decision from changing your life, changing the world around. So keep shining, keep tapping into your own magic, and keep spreading the love. Thank you so much, everyone, and I'll see you at some point soon. Goodbye, everyone. Bye.